How do you define a director's role?
So let me give you the classic definition. And this is something I attribute it to National Association of Corporate Directors. I'm not 100% sure that they were the ones that invented it, but they may well have. It's an acronym called NIFO, and that stands for noses in, fingers out. So the idea is that directors are not management. Fingers out. They're not managing. They're not actually in the bowels of the company directing operations, but they are noses in and really kind of providing oversight. Now, having said that, there's very much been a little bit of a shift where the kind of classic definition was, if you think about fingers out, it was very hands-off, just, let's see what's going on. It's changed a little bit since then.
So they still have the hands-off approach?
They still,
or are they having a little more influence and providing a little more direction?
I would say that they are providing more direction, and here's why. If you think about the current business environment, so things are moving so incredibly quickly. They're so complex. It used to be, I'm not sure I'm going to get this statistic right, but in the 1960s, I believe the lifespan of a company was, 100 years, sort of on average. Now it's like 15. It's changed if you think about, sort of who were the big companies 10 years ago. Things like, MySpace, Blockbuster, those kinds of companies, Circuit City, don't exist anymore because things are changing so quickly. A lot of that has to do with technology and just the dramatic pace of change in terms of disruption, business model changes. And companies that can't stay ahead of it and can't keep up with it are really going to be left behind. The other thing is globalization. It used to be that you were worried about your competitor across the street. That's so archaic because now your competitor could be someone who's got, 3 laptops in a garage on the other side of the world. And so just in terms of really knowing what's out there, it's impossible to do what used to be done in the past, which is, if you think about strategy, sort of the classic model is there would be annual strategic offsite, and the management would present to the board, a sort of finished plan tied up in a bow saying, here's the 5-year strategy, and then they would refresh it periodically, but certainly no more than once a year. Now, it would be suicide to do that because everything externally is changing so quickly that what's presented today may be totally different, 6 months from now, 2 minutes from now. And so the board needs to really be on top of it in order to be able to turn on a dime in the way that a company now needs to if things change. And you can't do that if you're noses in but fingers completely out. You have to get much more involved. The other thing is, from a risk perspective, the pressures are tremendous. If you just remember in the newspaper, anytime there's been a major issue at a company, whether it's a cyber breach, another kind of compliance issue, a problem with the CEO, at some point during the course of the news cycle, the question will always be, where was the board? And so the boards do need to get a lot more deeply into the discussion and the oversight. Now, again, they're not running the company, so it still is that noses in, fingers out to some extent, but it's noses in a lot deeper, and fingers aren't out quite as far as they used to be.